We're here today with Alfred Mason at the Northumberland Veterans Unit in Pictou, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Now, I understand, Mr. Mason, that you were born on January 4th, 1895.
That's right.
How old are you, sir?
I'm 101. I'll soon be 102 in this January.
Where were you born?
I was born in Tangier.
Where is that?
That's east of Halifax, about 40 miles east of Halifax, 60 miles east of Halifax.
I see.
Toward Sheet Harbor. You're down Sheet Harbor. Right?
Yes.
And I was born there, and I lived there till I was 17. And when my uncle come down, he was over here visiting. He lived in Glasgow. He told me about the car works. So I left the job I was on. I was working in the gold mines there. And there's gold mines in Tangier. And one of the first places they ever struck gold in North America.
I see. Right here in Nova Scotia.
And I come over with him, and I went to work at the car works. They were building the car works then.
Yes. Where were they building the car works?
In Trenton.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. In Trenton, I worked there, and then I left there, and I thought I'd make more money. I went up to the steel mill. Well, I did make some more money, but there was days that we didn't, and those days we were on tonnage, like, you know.
Yes. Alf, where was this? Where was the steel mill?
Steel mill in Trenton.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the first place I ever made steel, too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, sure. And I worked there. And from there, I thought I'd try the mines, and I worked in the Allen Shaft in Stellarton, the Allen Shaft. And the manager was Malcolm Blue at that time. And then when the war broke out, I left, went down to Halifax. And in 1915, after I was 20, turned 20, I joined the Army.
So you joined in Halifax?
In Halifax, yeah.
What unit did you join?
I joined what they call the 66. Now, at that time, they were told us, the rumor going around, that the 66 was going over right away. So I joined them. That was wrong. It wasn't wrong. It wasn't right.
I see.
So I seen that it wasn't going over. I transferred to the 40s, and I know damn well they were going over because they were getting up. So I went to the 40s, went up to Quebec, and done training in Quebec.
Where was that?
Up in the mountain there in Quebec. Up.
Valcartier?
I can't think of the name of the place offhand. Where we was up on the hill anyway.
Okay, yes.
It's about 18 miles out of Quebec.
Yes.
And when we done our training, over we went. So when we got over there, we wasn't over there very long before they needed reinforcements overseas, and over we went.
Well, when your training, do you remember very much about the training that you had in Quebec?
Yes, was training. It was rifle drill.
Yes.
And mostly walking and
Marching.
That kind of drill, and some rifle drill. That's all. The training wasn't much there. It was better over in England. The training over in England was better. Yeah, and we had a little training there before I went overseas. Yeah.
You were still with the men of the 40th Battalion?
No, I was still with the 40th Battalion.
Yes.
And then they got word that they need reinforcements overseas, so they shipped 100 of us to the CMRs, and 100 to different battalions, that was short-handed.
Now, who are the CMRs, Alf?
CMR, they shipped them, they shipped us to the 40th Battalion, to the CMRs, the 5th CMRs.
Yes.
That's what I was telling you about,
yeah.
The CMRs. They were formed in Quebec, or Montreal.
Yes. So the 5th
They were over there long before I got there.
Yes. So the 5th CMRs were the Canadian Mounted Rifles?
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
And you joined them in England?
I joined them in France.
In France. Yeah. Now, did you have any training up and
after
Quebec?
We had some training. We had some training in England.
Yes.
But not like the training we had over in England. We had no shooting at people and all this sort of thing. We didn't have that.
What do you remember of the training in England then?
Well, it was just training, something like something like we give up. It was a little better than what it was in Canada.
I see.
And it was like rifle drill and different machine gun drill and bomb firing and all this sort of thing, you see. And we fired them girls, come on, put a bucket there, see if we could put one into it at a distance, you know.
Oh, yes.
Overhand, like this. They wouldn't allow you to fire a bomb like this.
Why is that?
Well, you're firing a lot of them, your arm would give out.
I see.
It's like this arm, I can't fire anything with it. It's got rheumatism.
I see.
You lose my left hand. And it's overhand.
Yes.
You see?
So how long did you train in England?
Oh, not very long before I went overseas.
I see.
Not very long.
And do you remember what time of the year it was when you entered France?
Yes. It was the spring, just in the spring when I went to France. Yeah.
Of 19...
That would be 1917? No, not 1917, 1916.
1916.
Because I was wounded over there in 1916.
So you entered France in the spring?
16,
in the spring of 1916.
Yeah. It was through the winter or spring, close to it.
Yes.
Anyway, I know that. It wasn't the summer, I know that.
And you were attached to the 5th Canadian Mounted Rifles. And you were with the 8th Brigade.
With the 8th Brigade, yeah.
And attached
and
to
the 3rd Division.
3rd Division. Do you remember the preparations for the Somme?
Yes. There was no preparations on this deal. The first thing we got word to get up the line. They needed us. And we had to go in as reinforcements, you see. And when I went in there, I was wounded.
At the Somme?
At the Somme, yeah. I was hitting the leg, in the side of the leg here with a piece of shrapnel. It had the CMRs, the 4 CMRs was in there. There was a lot of them captured. And we were out on arrest at the time, and they forced us in there, took us in there, and this place here, there's a big woods there, called Sanctuary Woods. That's where I was wounded. Sanctuary Woods.
Was it the wound sufficient enough to have you taken out of the line?
Yes, I was able to get out on my own. The officer said, you better get out and take that fellow with you. This fellow with me was shell-shocked. And he was a man that was pretty hard to handle. But I got him in the trench going out all the way out, you know, the communication trench.
Yes.
And he was blowing it here and there all the way along. Sometimes a shell would land behind us, sometimes it would land ahead of us, you see. Yes. We'd be ducking and dodging. It wasn't fun. No. And this fellow would holler, oh my God, he's just like a crazy person, you know.
So your wound...
he wasn't wounded, he was shell-shocked.
Yeah,
I was wounded in this right leg, and it was getting stiffer all the time. It was in the muscle, you see. Yes. And I pulled out the junk out of the leg, and there was a piece of, I have it yet at home, there's a piece of shell about that long, like the copper band off a shell.
Yes.
It drove in there, in the muscle of the leg. And the officer gave me the doctor gave me a ball note over.
How long were you away from your unit, Alf?
3 months. 3 months and 1 day. I'll tell you why in 1 day. I was wounded on the 4th of January. On the 4th of June, I should say.
July.
And I arrived back on the 5th of September.
Yes.
And back to fighting again, the 5th of September. I went down on the Somme.
So the winter of that year was your first winter in France.
Yeah.
What were the conditions like?
Oh, the conditions wasn't very good. I'll tell you the conditions. We come out of the Somme, fighting down the Somme. One of the worst places in all the war, to my opinion. And we went down and to put us in another place, just holding the line, you know, just there to keep the Germans back. We left there the Somme in the fall, and we had about 6 or 7 men to a platoon, which we should have had 50.
Yes.
We're cut up that bad, you see.
Yes.
Lost all those men down the Somme. So they put us in there to get reinforcements to reinforce us up, you see. And it took the 70th Battalion, the most of them, to reinforce us. You see.
Is that right?
And then after that, we got ready for the Vimy Ridge, you see. All winter we were holding the line there that winter, and the conditions were bad. And we were out the line, an old barn, and there was those bunks into it made out of chicken wire, you know, and cold, no heat. And the two fellows would bunk together and to get all your clothes on, and your 2 blankets, or you had a blanket each, you put over you and roll yourself up, and it was pretty cold.
That was when you were out of the trenches?
Yeah, out of the trenches.
What was the routine, Alf? How much time would you spend in the trenches?
You spent all the trenches. When you went in, you were in there for a week, unless you were wounded or they took you out. A week, maybe 2 weeks, before you got reinforcements to come in and take you out.
Yes.
You see, to relieve you, they give you a rest. And you're in dugouts there, and every day you're looking over the parapet or watching the Germans are coming. If they're coming, you're shooting at them, and they're shooting at you, and that's the way it is. At nighttime, you put on sentries, and some fellows have a sleep, you know, get down to the dugout and have a sleep for a while, and then get them out, and then the other fellows have a chance to have a few sleep. Then, besides that, they'll come to you and me and you and so on. I want you to go to no man's land tonight. You got to come with me. We're going to control it. So you walk, you don't walk. You crawl around all between the 2 lines. You're looking for Germans, they're doing the same, you understand? You come across them or you're into a battle, you see, with bombs and things like that, you see. So it's not very quiet.
No. Was the purpose?
No, it's not a quiet sleep. You don't get a quiet.
No. So you're in the front, and the front line, or the front
That's
trench.
the front line. You're in there. You're in there for from 2 weeks to 3 weeks.
I see. Then you're taken out for how long?
You're taken out for a week. Maybe if you're lucky, you might get 2 weeks out of it.
Okay.
You'll be taken off of that and maybe go on another front. You see, after you're out a week and go on another part of the front, relieve somebody else on another part of the front. That's the way it is.
So when you're out of the line, you're back in these billets that you just talked about, are you? In like a...
When you're out of the line, you'll have a little rest for about a day, and then you're into drilling and all this sort of stuff, rope marching, stuff like that to keep you in shape.
Okay.
You see, stuff like that.
These trench raids that you were just talking about, the raids into no man's land to get, what was the reason for the raids?
The raids, well, now we made a raid on Maricourt, that's in front of Vimy. I helped to take Vimy, and this, I knew all the land and everything, and I knew them towns over there, which I haven't been in. The Germans were there. The German pulled back to them places. It was a long way. We got a bunch, 150 of us, volunteered to make these raids. The officer wanted to make the raid. They wanted to get some information. They figured the Germans were going to make a raid on us, you understand?
Yes.
And they wanted to get information. The only way you want to get it is get prisoners. So we, back of the line for 4 or 5 nights, we airplane took a photograph of the German lines, and we taped that with white tape, you know, way back of the line. And we stayed back there, and every night we'd go over that, you see, for a week, every night. because so you just know exactly where you had to go, you see, exactly the same. So when we got ready to go over, it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and they opened up behind us with the artillery, and we got struck every place that we were supposed to go. We hit right, and then we took some prisoners, and what we could kill, we done, and blow up dugouts. That was my job, to blow up the dugouts, and take some prisoners so we could get them. So you asked the people, you go along, and you had those mobile charges, or 10 about 10 pounds, I think it is, and you carried over more than 10 pounds, a bit heavier than that. And you hollow down, ask them to come up. It didn't get far when they were down. You blow up the dugouts, just do that. So we had to do that,
Yes.
and take any prisoners if necessary. And we shot an officer and another guy waiting for us, but we were too quick for them. So that's where I got my DCM.
The Distinguished Conduct Medal.
Distinguished Conduct Medal. Yeah. So we come back. So you only had so long there, you see. You had to get back, and then get back. It's all daylight then.
Yes.
So you'd be back before Germans had a chance to get at you, you see, you get back, because they flew the coop, you see.
Yes.
We took, we got, how many prisoners? I think about 30-some prisoners, and they got a lot of information, you see. The Germans were they were going to make the run
Yes.
for us. So that's what we want to find out.
So this
So
information.
that cleared it. That
Yes.
cleared the whole outfit.
Yes.
When you done that, you broke in
Yep.
for what they were going to do.
It was a spoiling
So
attack.
that was it. So
Yep.
so when it's before they started the game, we started
Yes.
and kept on going until the thing was finished.
So this information would have been useful in the taking of Vimy Ridge later.
See, they were going to go. I tried to take Vimy Ridge back. You see, they were only about a mile from Vimy Ridge. That's what it was.
So this engagement, this trench raid that you were referring to, where you won the Distinguished Conduct Medal, that was after the taking of Vimy Ridge, was it?
Oh yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well,
Oh,
let me
yeah.
go back.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
go back, Alf, to the preparations for Vimy Ridge
Oh,
themselves.
it's the preparations.
Yes. Do you
You
remember
want to
that?
go back to the preparations?
For
Well,
Vimy?
we were out of the line there for a while practicing for Vimy Ridge racket, you know.
Yes.
So when the time come, we all got in. You had to go to the trenches, get into our trenches, and you're facing the Germans, but quite a ways away. At 5 o'clock in the morning, that was zero. When 5 o'clock come, the artillery opened up, and we went. They opened up, and we opened up. You see, and we lost quite a few men and all that sort of thing, but not like down the Somme.
What do you remember about the Vimy Ridge attack?
Oh, well,
do you remember the weather?
The weather, well, yes, I remember the weather quite well about it. It was snowing and raining that morning. It was just like a fine rain, but snow with it.
Yes.
And we were there, a German figured they won't go today. They had an idea, but that's the day we went. That didn't stop us from going. But before the day was over, it was just a nice day. It cleared up and it was all right. And it cleared up before we got up to the top of the ridge.
Do you remember what your objective was of your unit?
Well, just one part of the Vimy Ridge.
Yes.
Our outfit was lined up for one part of the ridge.
Yes.
There was nothing there but trenches there, and the ridge, and back of the ridge was a gold mine. Was a coal mine. So you went over the ridge, you fall over the edge of it. You see, there was a coal mine there in a little village on the other side of it. I never seen it until I took the ridge. You never know it was there. Of course, the summer that I knew about, when I was taking airplane photographs and things like that. But as far as we're concerned, we didn't know that little village was there. Yeah. You see, it was just over there. There was a mine outfit.
As you were going up the ridge, and as you got to the top, was there a lot of Germans still on the ridge holding it?
No. We didn't take too many prisoners. They took off.
Okay.
They took off. We got a lot of them, but not like we should have got. They took off over the ridge and crossed over them. Then you could shoot them going over. It's just like a big farm. The other side, that's what it was. Farming country, a big farm the other side of the ridge, and till you come to Avion and Americourt, it's about a mile. You see. And that was all the farm. All the Germans had it was in the open there. You see,
so they moved back to Maricourt.
Huh?
They moved back. The Germans moved back to Maricourt.
Oh yes, they went right back to there. You see.
And that
was their whole. That was their line, the whole. You see.
And that relates.
And Vimy, we held Vimy there, stayed on Vimy there for all summer, all that summer practically, because our outfit was around that place all summer, till the fall of the year, till we got word to advance.
Let me come back to what was your reaction, Alf, when you reached the heights of Vimy Ridge? What was your reaction?
Well, it was great to get on top of the ridge and see what's going on the other side. You know, you couldn't stand up out of the trench. You had to look. You know, you're in the trench. You see, you're in the German trench then, because we had no trenches there. Germans had the trenches. So you drove them out of their trenches, and we get in. And that's what the size of it.
Were you aware at the time how great a victory it was?
Oh yeah, sure. It was a great victory. After when the British, one of them, I think it was the French, lost 18,000 men there, trying to take it and couldn't take it. Then the British come in. I don't know how many they lost. They couldn't take it. And we come in and took it. That's the size of it. They had the Australians with them. Some of the Australians, the British too, with them when they did it. So we never stopped. We were held up on the left flank. The 85th Battalion was held up, Wards Hill 70, over that way. And we had to send some troops over. It wasn't me, because I was on the right flank. I was connected up with our division, our platoon was connected up with a battalion from New Brunswick. It was the 2nd Division, you see. So they had to send some of the boys from that end, the other end, down to help them out.
Would that have been the 26th Battalion?
26, and all was the 24th,
okay.
24th or 26th, one or the other. Okay. One of them. I had a cousin in one of them. He was wounded down. He was wounded in that battle. Yeah.
Well, so after Vimy Ridge, you had this trench raid where you won the Distinguished Conduct Medal.
That was afterwards.
Yes, you mentioned that a little bit to me earlier.
That was, Vimy Ridge, and then I got that, I got it here.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know. And so anyway, it was after that summer, along with the spring, it was the 9th of April we took Vimy Ridge in 1917.
Yes.
And we didn't make that raid till 1918, where we made that raid on the Germans, because they were going to make a raid on us.
Yep. Just 1 second, there's a noise feedback, so we'll stop for just a minute, Alf.
Oh yes,
and then as soon as we get that noise stopped, we'll start again.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
No,
it's just that he set off the alarm.
Ah. Well, it's a good time for a break anyway.
Yeah, he just set off the alarm, Dad.
Alf, would you like a glass of water or anything?
No,
Yeah.
no. So anyway,
So-
I can't tell you anything about it. It's the only thing it done to me. I lost my memory.
Well,
For a lot of things. I lost my memory.
well, so
And
far
then-
your memory's very good.
And the only thing that bothered me, there was a girl, a nurse, that looked after me all the time. I never forgot her. And she even come down here, this is the fourth time now she's been down here visiting me. She's
Yes.
a married woman and got a family. But she looked after me and I done what I was told, I suppose, I don't know. I don't know anything about this, you
Yes,
know, what she tells me, you know.
Well, if I can, Alf, just to get back to what followed at Vimy Ridge. So at that stage, I take it that you thought that we were winning the war.
Oh, at Vimy Ridge.
Yes.
Yes. Well, not exactly. In a way, it was taking the ridge was a big thing, of course, because they're up there and they could see everything that's going on and for miles back, you know. And they didn't want to give that up, but they had to. And after that, it was different. And I remember going over to another place. They talked about the war. The war started. It started to advance now, and we took a place called Monchi. It was a big hill, but farmers were all around. Everybody was built in homes in this hill. And we just took it in the morning. So we were standing around there talking, and the first thing, word comes through that we had to go take the Hindenburg line. The Hindenburg line was in front of us, and it was on a big hill. This is our own battalion. This was on a hill and a big valley down below, you see. And I was telling the boys about it, you know, that we got to go over. I was a sergeant, I was just talking to my own men. And there was a shell busted. Oh, God, it's a long way back of us. And this thing come whistling through the air. And I was talking to a fellow, and I was facing like this, the dugout right there. And this piece of shell hit me and took a chunk out of my coat and buried itself into the plank in the dugout. And never just scratched me.
Yes.
If I had have been that way a little bit, I'd lost the arm right there.
That was in March of 1918?
That was the 1918.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, can I back you up again to after Vimy Ridge in 1917?
1917.
Do you remember the summer of 1917 in particular? Was there anything?
Well, on Vimy Ridge, we done a lot of fighting around different places. Well, it wasn't the Somme. We had Somme was 1916. We were down there.
Yes.
And different places. We had little battles, you know, but no advance. Nobody was getting anywhere, you see. There'd be a few raids, but nobody was gaining any ground till the big push came in 1918. 1917, after Vimy Ridge, there wasn't much pushing after that till 18.
There was one big battle, though, in the
Wow,
fall.
oh,
You remember Passchendaele?
Yeah, I forgot about it.
I'm sorry, I thought you might have.
Yeah,
Can-
I'll tell you how about Passchendaele now, being a mention. I never thought of it. I was on leave, another fellow and I, and we overstayed our leave, you see. And I said to him, no, I said, I'm going to lose these 3 stripes I got. But I said, they're going to punish you for being over. We stayed 5 days
Where?
in England.
In England.
So when we come back, they were getting ready to go in the line at Passchendaele. And I went to the orderly officer and I turned my face. He looked at me. He said, "You're absent." I said, "Yeah, it says that." And I walked out and they said the same to him. The both of us went in the line and there wasn't another word about it. It was Passchendaele. I forgot about Passchendaele. Machine gun nests was holding them up, and it was in a pillbox with concrete, and you go in on the back of it and walk in, or I don't know how to get in, but you could drop things in. So this Holmes fella, he went down along the trench, and he got up on the parapet and went over on the parapet and crawled all the way away from that altogether. And then when he got them out of sight, so they couldn't see him, then he started crawling up. And he crawled up to that pillbox. He had 2 or 3 bombs, and he crawled up on top and dropped the bombs in, and he killed the works. And that's the one that was holding them up all the time.
Is that right?
He done that. Yeah.
You
He's
mentioned
17 years old. He only died here about 3 years ago. Holmes was his name.
You mentioned the mud. You mentioned the mud at
Oh,
Passchendaele.
mud, yeah, it was terrible there. It was after rain, the heavy rain and mud. And you almost get mired in it, It was terrible to get along.
Well, were they expecting the Canadians to advance in that mud?
Well, they done pretty good. I thought they done pretty good. We took different things and took different places and things like that. But some didn't, some did. You see, so everybody can't be the same, do the same thing. They have different obstacles against them, and things like that. So.
Do you remember, were there a lot of casualties?
Yes, we had quite a few casualties on there. Yeah, we had quite a few casualties. I just can't tell you how many, but I know there was a lot. But I just can't forget the Somme. Cut the pieces down there. Can't forget. I was lucky, very lucky in that battle. We took this trench.
This is the Somme again.
Yeah,
is it? Yes.
I'm back to 17.
16.
16. We took this trench. There was a Canadian battalion on our left, and a Canadian battalion on our right, and we went over. There was more than that. There was all the way along. I don't know what's there, but and we took the trench. We did. They didn't. We got in an awful mess right there. The Germans started coming in on both sides of you and in front of you. So we lost the trench the next day. And we lost a lot of men. We were lucky to be back. That's what happened. If they hadn't made it, we were all right, but they didn't. Well, they might have been up. Maybe harder or with more opposition than we had. It's possible, That's why I forget the Somme.
Yeah. So after Passchendaele, we're back to 1917, the winter of 1917.
The winter of 1917, that's after Passchendaele. And I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if I can remember much about it.
It'd be mainly just, it was fairly quiet.
I know I was there, but I wasn't away anyway.
The spring of 1918, though.
The spring of 1918, we were around Vimy Ridge all the time, most of the time, and Hill 70.
Yes. further north.
Yeah.
Further north, the Germans actually went on the offensive, did they not?
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah,
didn't
sure.
they push back the Allies?
I remember taking Mons and all that sort of thing.
But before that, were you worried that the Germans were going to win in the
No,
spring of 1918?
I wasn't worried because we wasn't doing too bad. But some of them were held up there for quite a bit, you know. They got more reinforcements and stuff like that. But we got them. When we took what do you call it? The place where we stayed after the war. I
Cambrai?
lost that one.
Cambrai, maybe? Or Amiens?
I can't think of the name of the name. The war ended there anyway.
Well, it must have been very close to Cambrai.
No, it wasn't Cambrai. No, the war ended there. That's where they signed it. Oh, everything.
Okay.
Well, we took it. And they
Or Mons.
gave up.
Mons, maybe?
Mons,
Okay.
Mons, yeah.
Well, before that, before all that, there was the period of time, the last 100 days, that were called Canada's 100 Days, the advance.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it, you started talking about it, and it started at the breaking of the Hindenburg Line.
Yes, so that's what it is.
Can you
Yeah,
start
that
from
was
there?
the starting of it. Yeah,
Yes,
that
can-
was the starting of it.
What do you remember about that?
And then we went down. If I could think of the names of the darn places today, I would tell you what happened. There was a town there that we took, and then we got on this side of the canal. There was a canal run through, and we stopped there, and the Germans were on the other side, and they blew up the bridge. Cambridge.
Yes.
I got it.
Yes.
Cambridge. And they blew up the bridge. So I was in a house with a bunch of boys down in the cellar, you know. They're staying there all night. And the orderly officer came along and he said, always had a password, you know, always did, every day. He said, the password tonight, he said, will be Cambridge. That's what it was, Cambridge. And he said, it was Cambridge tomorrow morning. And he said to me, Alf, he said, I want you to take your men and go across on the bridge. The bridge would blow down, but the stringers. Go across and spread them out and for a covering party for the rest of the battalion.
Yes.
Why? I thought of it afterwards. I said, oh, okay, sir. Why did he be the first one to go, not me? He was the officer in charge.
Yes.
I went across there expecting to be picked off. You expected that because they were on the other side, and I'm crossing the bridge with all my men on those stringers with their hands and knees, and carrying a rifle. And we got across with a goddamn shot fired. Not a shot. I got them all lined up, all along, everywhere, and finally the battalion. And they built, the engineers come in and built a bridge across on the water, you know, one of those bridges they have, and across. So we went up through the town, quite a big town. I seen one German, and he was running and hiding, he wanted to be taken prisoner. And some of the boys were shooting at him, you know, but he was harmless, you know what I mean to say. He wasn't there, he wanted to be taken prisoner anyway. I went on the other side looking for stuff, and the other side was a coal mine. We went along different places hunting for them and couldn't find them. They'd gone way back. I come across a wagon full of ammunition and 4 horses, dead. laying there dead. One of our shells hit it. And a German foot cut off there. It was laying down by the side of the wagon. It got him away. I overhauled the wagon, and I hauled out some clothes was into a hole in there. And I opened it. He was a bottle of German whiskey in the So I never touched it. I took it, but I never take it again.